human.
Ben Goessling in about 30 minutes, and Lavelle will join in about 90. Carl Gerbschmidt is back for the second segment.
Hey, Dan?
Yeah.
Hey, Dan?
Yes.
I think earlier I didn't say the right thing.
You misspoke?
Because I was thinking about what we were talking about with the hot toddy thing.
Yeah.
That's not, and I've had them, so it's not, I think I was thinking of something like a Tom and Jerry or something like that, but I don't think you heat that up. No, in this case, no, hot toddy, it's got like whiskey, generally rye whiskey, and they put like lemon juice and stuff, and then you heat that beast up, and it's very, very, if you got a throat problem, hot toddy is the way to go. So but I just wanted to clarify that so that I didn't come off looking like a bozo.
Well, speaking of that, 507 guy, well, even though his moniker is Ben, his name is Ben in Minneapolis, writes, Carl is a fraud. A hot toddy is whiskey, lemon juice, honey, and hot water. Just another example of Wisconsin thinking they know alcohol best simply because they drink the most.
Okay, I got confused, Dan. Yeah. And I also, have you ever had Canadian one instead of the honey, you use like maple syrup?
I have not. I've not had either.
Yeah. Well, you should, Dan, have you thought about drinking a little bit more?
Maybe I should.
Maybe kind of smooth your personality out a little bit?
Yeah, that's a possibility.
Or will it amplify?
Yeah, it could make it even.
Will it amplify?
Well, you think Dan would be an angry drunk?
I don't know. Or maybe he'd be opposite. Maybe he'd be positive.
He's an angry sober person.
Well, we know that. That much is for sure. Somebody's math is very screwed up because here are the records. Gerby, 25-17. Guardsy, 22-20. And somehow I'm 17-35. I think that should be 17-25.
Yeah, I don't think it's my math, which usually is bad.
Getting punished, Dan.
It's just my my fat
some
fingers.
Some of your picks are so stupid that's what's happening.
So, sort of like the Minnesota Vikings, I'm on the verge of mathematical elimination if I fall much further behind. I'm 8 games behind, but we got, what is it, 5
Hold on, is that what you're saying in Minneapolis? Is you're on the verge?
That's what I said.
Seriously.
Well, I'm not mathematically eliminated yet.
The ancient Phoenicians have a better history than you.
Wow.
You got no chance.
We're in the hunt.
You're over.
In the hunt?
We're in the hunt.
You're finished. In the hunt for what?
Well, for third place.
The number one draft choice? I think you have to lose a little bit more.
Yeah, we're not going to lose enough for that. That's we blew that last week.
That up.
Well, we screwed that up last week. Very true.
Yeah, by the way, I said you're going to win. You did.
We all got the Vikings last week.
Yeah, we did, actually. That's true. I don't even know what other one I got. I was 2-1, and you guys were... Gerby, I guess, was also 2-1. Guardsy was 1. You didn't even make your own picks. No, you did last week.
I did last week.
Last week you did.
Yeah.
It was very memorable.
It definitely was. Rams-Lions, nice little matchup there. That game is in L.A., and the Rams are favored by 6.5 over the Detroit Lions. 6.5 in L.A. What did the Lions do last week? The Lions ended up...
They beat the Cowboys badly.
They beat the...
44-30.
They took care of their offense was extremely good. Rams, it's a lot of points. I'm going to take the Rams to cover. Guardsy?
I think I am right there with you. I think the Rams are the best team in the NFC. I think the Rams are going to the Super Bowl. I think all the stuff about Stafford and the back, and I think they have proven it. Probably have the best coach that might be a little underrated because they hasn't been around. They've had a couple of meandering years. They killed us in the playoffs, obviously, last year.
Who doesn't?
I'm going to take.
That's not bulletin.
I'm going to take the Rams to cover as well on their way to home field advantage throughout the playoffs.
That's just what is with you guys? I mean, you just say things.
They're 10-3.
The power of the sports talk is that people just say things just to say them.
They do?
I mean, I'm going to make a controversial prediction.
Okay.
Detroit's not making the playoffs.
Whoa.
They're not going to be in the playoffs.
I don't know if it's that controversial.
They're over.
So you're saying the Bears are not going to collapse?
I didn't say that. They probably will not. It's unlikely. They got a pretty easy schedule. So I think it's unlikely they will collapse. They'll lose to us one more time. But here's the thing. Detroit they're falling apart, and and there's no way they're going to win this week and go out the West Coast. You just can't. We think Detroit thinks they're good now because they won a game, so they think they're good, but they're not. So the Rams will beat them and they will cover.
Game number 2, Green Bay is in Denver. How about this? What is Denver? 10-3?
11-2.
11-2, and they're 2.5 to 3-point underdogs, depending on which site you want to pay attention to.
They've won 10 in a row.
To the Green Bay Packers, which seems absurd on its face. I got to be honest with you.
Well, go ahead, pick against Green Bay. Go ahead.
Here's
just do it. See what happens to you.
Here's the rub, as they say.
Last place.
Here's the rub, as they say in the business. Your defense, much vaunted.
What business do they? Hold on. What business do they say? Here's the rub, Ian Dan.
I don't
familiar with.
Vern's,
yeah, probably
Vern's business.
So, in all honesty, your defense the second half was reeling. The Bears had you at home, had you guys utterly and completely on the run.
The second half.
I'm picking Denver to outright win the ball game. It's Denver 100%, and I know they find weird ways to win. And statistically, you can't figure it out. It's going to continue. Your club's going down in Denver in what we say in the business, the Rocky Mountain State. Guardsy?
Are you okay, Carl?
He's just talking stupid. Go ahead, Jordan. You can do it too.
Well, yeah, I don't love the Broncos, as everybody knows. But here's the Packers' progression, their pure progression recently. What they'll do. They're starting to play well. Jordan Love's going pretty well. What they'll do here, they're going to Denver, and it's going to be a clunker. They're not going to play. They're not mature enough. They don't handle this stuff well. They don't handle wasn't it the second week of the season that they ended up losing? And people say, well, yeah, we were reading our press clippings because they had one good win.
Yeah, I
week
thought it was
one.
After 2 good wins.
Yeah, maybe they crushed the Lions week 1, and everybody was anointing them. I don't think they learn anything from being good. So I think they go in there, and I think Denver wins the game. I'm with Dan.
What do you think, Carl? As if I don't know.
Here's the thing, is that you still think they're learning things. I'm telling you they are learning things. I'm telling you that Coach Matt has now got him to say, here's what happens, boys, if you don't take it seriously. It's got Cleveland all, and it's like you got that sort of thing. And they listen, okay? They listen. And I'm so tired of people saying bad things about Jordan Love. It's just he's playing phenomenally well. And I'm saying that there's money to be made against the Denver defense, and we're going to make it. So we will cover the points easy because we're not losing again this year. We're not going to do it.
Not going to lose the rest of the year?
Not losing the rest of the year.
So regular season and postseason all the way to the Super Bowl.
Not losing the rest of the year.
So that goes into next year.
We're done with losing.
You're done with losing. So you're taking the Packers to cover?
Of course I am. That's what all the smart people would do. That's why I'm in first place.
Cowboys are at home, favored by 5.5 points over the Vikings. Not that long ago, if anybody had said the Cowboys still have a chance to steal the Eastern Division, people would have laughed. They would have mocked it. They would have ridiculed it. Now it's not so crazy. The Eagles are in semi-free fall, it appears. And Dallas is looking almost like a real football team. Dallas is favored by 5.5 points over the new and improved and stripped down Purple. I am taking Dallas to win the game and Dallas to cover Guardsy.
Vikings are going to cover. I'm a believer again. In the stripped down, baby steps, KOC, J.J. McCarthy offense. I liked your idea on Enough Said today. Justin Jefferson breakout game. Sunday Night Football. Yeah, with Chris Collinsworth there, right?
Yes.
Going crazy.
Right.
J.J. McCarthy, he's had an up and down year. Look at him now, though. He's excited. I'm going, Vikings are going to make this one interesting. They will cover, if not win the game.
Carl?
The lights get pretty bright when you play at prime time. They get pretty bright.
They do?
And, yeah, they do. And neither of these teams has any defense worth speaking of. And I just think that the final score is going to be something like 54-50 or something like that. Maybe 54-47, which would be enough for Dallas to cover that. So I think Dallas will cover it. I think it was fun for you guys last week. It might not be that close. It might not be. Because Dak Prescott is, I don't know if you know, is having a pretty good year.
He's having a good year, yeah.
And let's put it this way. they played very tough against us, and we're way better than you. So I think that you're not going to cover it. It's too bad for you guys. Down. But you're not. That's something else that might be true. You might not win again this year.
This is from emailer Rob. No, it's an exclamation point. I purposely don't turn on the Beast until after 4 p.m. on Fridays during the season because of the Wisconsin fraud. Why is he still on? Finish this segment already. Wow.
It's not very nice.
Another one of your fans, I guess, Carl.
Why don't you put your hands back on, Flappy? What's the guy's name?
Rob.
Rob doesn't like the segment. Oh, too bad for Rob. Oh, my gosh, Rob, I'm really worried about what you had to say about the segment. Because, Rob, you're in Minnesota, you're a loser. And I was going to be a loser, and the rest of the people in Minnesota are losers, and you
These could
don't
be
have
customers.
anything to say about it. I have an agreement to be on this program. And I'm going to be on the program right by the time that Dan is like, hangs up on me because I'm going to be on this program all afternoon.
Tired of listening to that nonsense. We have Ben Goessling to bring some sanity and professionalism to the cause. That's scheduled for about 10 or 15 minutes from now. We are indeed back. Ben Goessling will be joining in just a couple of minutes. I feel in an odd sort of way like maybe today's the day we should have had Russo on. Then again, he helped us preview last night's game, even though he was not. He was, where was he? Edmonton?
Edmonton, yeah.
Where it was minus, you said 22 temperature?
Minus 22.
Is that Celsius or Fahrenheit?
Pretty sure Fahrenheit.
Oh, okay. Is minus 22 Celsius like end of the world? Can you get to minus 22 Celsius? See, I don't know the difference between Celsius and Fahrenheit.
I think it would be a worse number.
It would, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I think
we have at least that much right.
People will correct us if we're completely wrong.
Callback. I want to get to a little bit of hockey, but a callback to the start of the program. Chris writes, being eliminated from the playoffs activates peak Cousins performance. Some savagery. Well, it is true. The pressure's off. I mean, he played masterfully, had that several drives, including the late field goal drive to engineer the improbable come-from-behind victory for Atlanta. But the truth, of course, is there was nothing at stake. Atlanta had already been mathematically eliminated.
That's
I guess
true.
For Kirk, you could say what's at stake is trying to convince would-be suitors for next season that he might still have something in him. Is he 37?
I'll look.
Kirk is 37
but yeah,
years
his
old.
career's at stake, right? As a starting quarterback, his career would be at stake.
Yeah, you could say there is a form of pressure associated with that, even
37.
if the team itself was eliminated from competition.
He'll be 38 by the time next season rolls around.
Minnesota Wild, although somebody reminded me that he thought he's under contract with Atlanta for one more year. I don't know if that's true or not.
I thought it was a 4-year contract he signed, and this would be year 2.
Well, that's true. You're right. It would be even long. Then maybe even 2 years.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah.
So who knows where that ends up. But we do know who said this. It was Salisbury yesterday said the fact that any team, even one that has a coach who goes back a long way with Phillip Rivers, would find their situation at quarterback desperate enough to re-sign a 44-year-old QB 4.5 years removed from his previous NFL experience, or last NFL experience, means basically you got nothing. You got there's so little depth at the quarterback position of available players of more suitable ages that's the ultimate indictment that they'd say, let's go get Phillip Rivers. David Rivers is a basketball player.
NC State, right?
Notre Dame, I think.
Notre Dame,
yeah. Did we have him for a minute? I think we might have.
The Wolves?
I think the Wolves might have had David. I don't recall for sure. I feel like the Wolves had everybody. At one point or another, they had everybody. And almost nobody looked good here. Because how could you in a lot of cases? How high on the pure progression list Kirk would be at this point, I don't know if that's enough, but he zipped the ball around very nicely yesterday. The Minnesota Wild zipped the puck around very nicely at the arena formerly known as the X. What was the final? 5-2?
Yes. Got a couple empty netters. 2
empty netters?
Yep.
And we got down 1-0 on a shorthanded goal. I think it's the first shorthanded goal we've given up all year. And then we tied it. And then they went ahead 2-1. And then we tied it. I think it was 2-2 going into the third. And then we never looked back at that point. And
it was a great game.
It was a very good game. The cliche is, you know that old Teddy Roosevelt expression, walk but carry a big stick? This was considered a measuring stick game. That's what we call it in the business, a measuring stick game. The team you're playing is considered one of the best in the National Hockey League. They're red hot. They're challenging the Lanch. It's basically the Stars and Lanch's world, and everybody else in our division lives in it. And that's what made it an impressive win, a highly digestible and watchable hockey game as well. And we didn't blink. That's sort of, I think, the spot we're in right now. We can't win a playoff series yet, as desperately as the organization needs it. But what we can do is recover from a bad start and then indicate against better teams that we want to step up in class, that we're not afraid to step up in class a little bit, where historically and generally we've been exposed. We had not beaten the Stars in regulation in at least 4 years, and we got the thing done, and it did. It's an overused description, but I think it's true here that it felt kind of playoff-ish in intensity and competitiveness for, as I said, much of the game. And so we get a very nice, very creditable victory, and it looks like we have staved off whatever dip had followed during the road trip, that had followed this massive surge that has taken us from mediocrity to mastery of the game of professional hockey. Is that about it?
It was wonderful. It was fun. Had the North Star colors on, which everybody loves. Dallas is in town. Pretty good goaltending. I know Bus said he wanted one back, but it was a hell of a game. It was fun. It was great. And they do, the way it started, obviously, we talked about it for 2 months. It didn't start very well, but the last 2 weeks, they've beaten two of the best teams, two best teams, like you said. And you're probably going to have to face one of them in the playoffs the way that it's going if things continue the way that they're going right now. And to be able to go toe-to-toe like that is a really good sign.
Your favorite basketball team is on national TV tonight in San Francisco, California, to take on the Meandering. I think they're behind us in the standings.
They are. They're about
State
500.
Warriors, yeah. And we're going to have to do it without Anthony Edwards. He's been downgraded from questionable or doubtful to out. Apparently a sore foot. He's out. Mike Conley had been previously ruled out. So does the coming out party for Bones Highland continue tonight? He's going to have to play, I would think, a decent amount. And if Dillingham doesn't play much tonight, we'll know it might well be over. And maybe we'd even be willing to include him in a trade with another basketball team. Did you see the Knicks rumor?
That they want Dante?
They want Dante DiVincenzo back. They are waxing nostalgic for Dante. They want him back. I don't know what the hell they'd have to offer us, and I don't know how we'd feel about letting him go. But in any case, no Anthony Edwards tonight, which obviously takes a little bit of the verve, the pizzazz out of tonight's matchup. But look, other teams win without their main player a lot, including the Phoenix Suns against us.
They do, yep.
So perhaps we can return the favor. I don't know. I wonder who would be in the starting lineup, because Conley's not available. Edwards ain't available, so I'm guessing Bones Highland starts. Who else would start?
Unless they just throw Jalen Clark.
Yeah, they could. That's true.
That would be my other guess.
Yeah. and then have 3 people who can't score in the starting lineup. Sorry.
He can score better than you think.
He can score okay.
He's hitting his corner threes.
That's okay.
Which is what he needs to do.
I wouldn't guard him. I wouldn't guard him at all. Minus 22 Celsius is only minus 7 Fahrenheit. That can't be true. Fahrenheit and Celsius scales meet at minus 40. Not sure which is colder at minus 22, but does it matter at that point?
Yeah, I'm confused.
I'm utterly, completely confused.
Yeah.
Because I thought...
As we all, both of us are.
32 degrees is freezing in Fahrenheit, but isn't 0 degrees freezing on Celsius?
I don't know that. I didn't go to meteorology
0 degrees Celsius is 32 degrees Fahrenheit. But then... Yeah, maybe that makes sense.
I never knew they met somewhere. They meet somewhere. There's a cross section. I never knew that.
I think somebody's just saying that.
That's the problem when we don't really know, people could tell us anything and we would believe it. And we would talk it out on the radio. So people could lead us down a completely erroneous road and we would have no idea. That's the danger.
What I do know is that the Cowboys have a 61% chance to beat the Vikings. Not 60%.
61?
Not 62%, but 61%.
Okay.
Very glad for that kind of specificity and detail. We'll find out who Ben Goessling picked via StarTribune.com for the Sunday night special. Cowboys hosting the Minnesota Vikings. Mr. Goessling's next. Dan, freezing point of water, 0 degrees Celsius, 32 degrees Fahrenheit. Boiling point of water, 100 degrees Celsius, 212 degrees Fahrenheit. Therefore, see if we can follow along here.
I won't be able to, but I'm listening.
Every 1 degree change in Celsius, there is a 1.8 degree change in Fahrenheit. It's really a very simple equation. Ben Goessling's pretty smart.
He's the guy to ask.
Maybe he would know. He is on the Connecticut Water Systems hotline, thanks to our good friends at Standard Heating and Air Conditioning. Are you a great Celsius versus Fahrenheit mind?
Somewhat. I mean, when you talked about the math of that, I'm like, yeah, that makes sense, because I think there is like a 9/5 relationship between Fahrenheit and Celsius, because there's a 180 degree difference between freezing and boiling Fahrenheit, and a 100 degree difference between freezing and boiling Celsius. So 180 divided by 100 is 9/5. It's pretty simple, Dan.
Okay. Yeah. Who are we?
Pretty elementary to me.
Thank you, Albert Einstein.
Yeah.
Can you?
I don't know where we went wrong. Like, I don't know how people know this stuff.
Can you describe to us in layman's terms the theory of relativity, Einstein's theory of relativity? That's next.
No, that one I got nothing, but I can do the temperature conversion well enough to talk my way around it on 100,000 watt radio, I guess. So the relativity thing will have to wait for another time.
What would Einstein say about pure progression? Do you think Einstein could figure out pure progression? That's speaking of theories and my mind being numb.
That is an elite segue. Yes, the pure progression has certainly been the buzzword of the week. There's no doubt about that.
Do you think...
Probably somewhat my fault for this.
Well, I was going to ask
we're blaming you guys,
I don't know. I thought I was ready to blame Seifert, but maybe it's more you, or maybe it's a combination of both. Maybe you're all going to raise your hand. I'm just fascinated by how fascinated you guys lost yourselves in the eyes and mouth of what? I guess it was first
Wes Phillips.
Then it was KOC. Then it was, I think, didn't McCarthy get in on this too, or is he still too young and inexperienced to understand it, even though he's supposed to implement it?
Well, yes, I am writing about some of these things, and it's a global story on developing a young quarterback, but there's a fairly substantive section on pure progression in my Sunday story. So I asked Wes Phillips on Tuesday about kind of the process of getting a young quarterback up to speed and learning how to coach him and helping him decipher coverages that are more complex than they used to be. And then I think Seifert jumped in, asked about the Kurt Warner stuff on pure progression, and actually ended up being a pretty interesting discussion. And then O'Connell on Wednesday, when he came to talk to us, you could tell it was like he was just waiting for somebody to get into it, because he brought up a couple things that made you think, okay, he's ready to go off on this if he gets the chance. And I think when he did that, FIFA was like, all right, I'll play. I'll ask you about it. So, yes, he and I probably were both complicit in this becoming a thing this week.
As you well know, it sounds as if Kurt Warner is in the cabal that's on the other side of this. We learned yesterday that Sean Salisbury has some understanding of both, but tends to long-term lean in the favor of the Kurt Warner view, which is a belief that pure progression ultimately is a bit too robotic.
Yes, and in fact, Tom Brady said this yesterday. He actually happened to be on Colin Cowherd yesterday and kind of unsolicited brought it up and said those exact words, that it makes quarterbacks robotic because you end up saying, I'm going to read through these progressions. And I asked Matt Rosemar about it, and he talked about, people will talk about it like a sprinkler, where you're just kind of going across the board. You start with 1, go 2 to 3 to 4, and move on from there. So, yes, you can get to that point. And the reason coaches say, on the other side, this is worth doing is college quarterbacks aren't being taught to read coverages anymore. And they're often coming to the NFL kind of behind enough in that aspect of things. You can't say, okay, we need you to go out here and tell me, is this cover 2? Is this cover 3 that's going to turn into cover 2? All of these things, especially as defenses get more complex, quarterbacks don't come into the NFL with the level of preparation and the level of understanding to do this stuff on the fly. So you can't put as much of it on the quarterback as perhaps you used to do it. So I think the divide on this has been quarterbacks that probably grew up in a certain era, Tom Brady, Kurt Warner. I think Sean obviously would be in this era too, where you had to do more of this. But the flip side is that the coverages now, there's so many more disguises and changing things on the fly to make quarterbacks stop. Because one of the things Kevin O'Connell brought up is back in the day, the reason you didn't throw over the middle of the field was not because they changed the coverage. The reason you didn't throw over the middle of the field was Ronnie Lott was standing there and he might knock somebody in the next week. So defenses have had to evolve, and quarterbacks probably don't have the level of acumen to handle it right away. So some of the pure progression stuff has been as a result of that. But the secret sauce of this stuff seems to be that you can still read coverages well enough to understand what's going to come open. How can I manipulate a defender? How can I create space, voids and vacancies, as the Vikings will talk about, and use all of those things together to make something happen?
So are we convinced that the head coach is fully prepared to largely adhere to the course he seemed to take against the Washington Commanders when the Vikings traveled to Dallas to take on the Cowboys Sunday night?
In other words, is he going to run the ball?
Yeah, that's in effect, yeah.
Yeah, I think they're going to do that, but I think the other piece of this is the Cowboys' front is a little bit better than what the Vikings saw from the Commanders. They have reloaded that group with a lot of guys that, Dante Fowler, Jadeveon Clowney, obviously Kenny Clark comes in the trade. They have a decent front that I think is going to make it a little tougher to run the ball than the Vikings did against the Commanders. But I think in general, it makes sense for them to do it because it certainly was a supportive thing for McCarthy. It put him in better down and distances. And I think this is a game where when the Cowboys have as many weapons as they do, especially as it looks like CeeDee Lamb is going to play, it helps to shorten the game. It helps to keep that offense on the sideline and play a little bit of the kind of the old school way of doing things where this guy can't hurt you if he's just sitting watching the game on the bench. So if you can control clock and make it a little more of a slugfest than a shootout, I think that probably does play in their favor. We'll see if they can do it, but I think philosophically there's a good reason to try it.
It sounds as if, on the basis largely of what you've already laid out, the difference in defensive line play, even for a defense that statistically is not that good. Dallas is not very high in a number of categories, but that the line is enough to leave you with a prediction that does not indicate the Vikings make it 2 in a row, and not even necessarily that they make it all of that interesting.
Yeah, that is correct. I think the Cowboys do win this. I picked the Cowboys to win the game, and I think that defensive front, some of the midseason acquisitions they've made have probably changed it a little bit from what we saw with those numbers earlier in the year. You can throw on this team. I think that you can pick on those defensive backs if they give people time. The Christian Darrisaw component of this is going to be a question again as we head towards game time. So they will have to figure out if they're going to have him and whether they can protect McCarthy well enough to have any chance to pick on the coverage. And then the Cowboys offense, I just think, is going to be a lot to deal with. If this turns into a game where you're trying to trade scores and trade points, I don't think that plays in the Vikings' favor. The Cowboys' offensive line is leaky enough that they may be able to get some things going, but Dak Prescott has done a good job of getting rid of the ball and has played at as high a level, I think, as he has throughout his career. So I don't think this matchup is terribly favorable for the Vikings. Maybe they'll surprise me, but I think there's a lot of ways, especially with that depth of that receiver group, that may make this one pretty tough.
When we get to a place where the season is in the rearview mirror and perhaps you have more of a chance to take a long view and maybe even get access to more information about stuff that might sometimes be hard to get during the season, is there going to be a backstory with some surprising tentacles as it pertains to the Christian Darrisaw injury season? Because I feel like it's just played out a lot less consistently and less purely than we thought it was going to.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think there are some tentacles here. I mean, I have reason to think that there are some tentacles, and I think we'll get more of a sense of that as we go. But yeah, I think that's been a big factor here where we're now, I think 400 some days after the surgery. I mean, it would have been late October of 2024. And the fact that we're still kind of doing this with the practices a couple days off a week, or at least taking one day off a week. And I think the odds of them having him Sunday night, we'll see. But I mean, this was the same trajectory he went through a couple weeks ago before the Seattle game, where he was out Wednesday, Thursday, then it was limited on Friday and ultimately did not play in that game. So yeah, the fact that we're still doing this far beyond the surgery, and it was a major injury, obviously, and he had a lot of things to come back from there, but you do see players, I think, generally, and everybody's going to be a little bit different, but you see players generally come back from this a little quicker than they used to, and the fact that we are still talking about it, a year and 2 months after it happened is, it's been a thing, and I think there's more to it. The little bit of talking and conversations I've had around it makes me think there's a little more to uncover there. There's enough breadcrumbs there to make me interested in it. Let's put it that way.
Ben Goessling covers the Vikings in the National Football League for the Star Tribune, joins us weekly thanks to Standard Heating and Air Conditioning. Did you hear any rumors that as the Vikings record sunk, that this game might be deflexed, or are we inoculated from that if the game happens to be also involving the Dallas Cowboys?
Well, I think there was discussion of that. I know there was at least some talk about the possibility that would happen, given the fact that I think the slate of games on Sunday is awfully good. So
yeah,
there's
you're right.
a lot of high-profile matchups that they could have put in there. But, America's team has a little something to play for. Right? Their playoff chances, I don't think, are terribly good either, but they have better chances than the Vikings do. And they typically draw numbers. So I think NBC said, we can have the Cowboys on in primetime in a game that matters at all. People, whether they love them or whether they hate them, and there's a lot of people that fit in both of those camps with that particular team, I think NBC said, let's keep them in primetime. I was wondering / maybe hoping it would get flexed out given deadlines and flights back and all of that kind of stuff. But I think the draw of the Cowboys was enough to keep it where it was originally scheduled to be.
Does any part of the comments that Joe Burrow made, in your mind, have legitimate relevance on how the quarterback picture might play out in Minnesota, or is it just pure and utter fun, and I guess you could say ultimately harmless, projecting and speculating related to the possibility of that being among the options that the Vikings might pursue this offseason?
Is it pure projection, in other words?
Yes.
Is that what you're asking?
Mm-hmm.
It's the buzzword of the week. It's just in my head. I think there would be a lot to figure out there in terms of what is he thinking? I mean, some of the comments he made this week, it's like, we were talking about this a little bit today. Is he musing about his career in the sense of he's thinking about retiring? I mean, anybody that's going to try to acquire him would have to know that. And the money would certainly be a factor. I think there's an option bonus and there's some money that would stay in Cincinnati, but they would probably have to do a restructure of some type, and the Vikings are in a tough cap situation anyway. But if he were to say, I want to go there, I want to trade my one college teammate for the other and go play with Justin Jefferson, I wouldn't rule it out, only in the sense that I think if they felt like they could get a guy like that has, almost won a ring instead of Kevin O'Connell, and they faced each other in the Super Bowl and has played in a very similar system to this, I wouldn't rule it out. I think logistically it's tough, especially when you're paying Jefferson what you're paying him. Generally, that gets hard to do when you have a receiver making almost quarterback money. I mean, the Bengals are doing it now, and you see where they have to kind of skimp on some things in other places because of the cap situation. And the Vikings would have to figure out a lot there as well. But, if they felt like, hey, this is definitely the answer and we can make it happen, I don't think anybody's in a position at this point to rule anything out. I guess I'd think about it that way. It would seem unlikely to happen, but I can't sit here on December 12th and say, yeah, no chance of that whatsoever.
Is Isaiah Rodgers on double secret probation right now?
I think the issues tackling have put him in a little more of a tenuous situation. I mean, and he's admitted to some of that where he's missed a lot. And I think last week they had Jay Ward playing there a little bit more often because of that. I think they felt like if you have a guy like Deebo Samuel on the field that is tough to bring down, you have to have your best tacklers on the field or you're going to expose yourself. So I think that's been a lot of it, and we'll see how this goes on Sunday. They're going to need all hands on deck, I think, with that group. But, a guy like Kevontae Turpin, as fast and twitchy as he is, you're going to have to be able to tackle. And they have enough people that can hurt you. George Pickens, CeeDee Lamb, Jake Ferguson, we'll see if he plays. But they're going to have to tackle in the open field, and if that's a problem, it's going to lead to big plays. So, yeah, I think for all of those reasons, it's you've seen where Isaiah Rodgers went from having one of the best starts in the league of any corner to only playing in certain situations, and the tackling is certainly the big reason why that is.
Evaluation is obviously each week a big part of what these coaches do moving forward, regardless of the condition of the team. But we all assume that if the team is all but mathematically eliminated from the postseason, then all that's left is individual evaluations that help go into significant decisions that need to be made in the offseason, who stays, who goes, salary cap issues, salary cuts, etc. So we know about the McCarthy part, okay? We're trying to see if we can get some traction with him over a period of games and see it continue to go in a more positive direction. But if you leave the quarterback saga out of the equation, where else do you think the Vikings are looking and should be looking the rest of this regular season?
Well, I think there's a couple things. On the defensive line, they're going to have a big decision to make with Javon Hargrave. A little bit with Jonathan Allen. The money doesn't make it quite as palatable to move on from him, but Javon Hargrave, they're certainly going to have to make a decision. So I think deciding, is there enough there to bring him back, or do you think about a restructure? I think that's going to be part of it. The corners, that's going to be a big question going forward. Not that there's necessarily an answer on the roster right now where the evaluation would tell you you're set at the spot. But I look at the defensive front. I think Dallas Turner, you've seen flashes lately, but they certainly need to see more from him. And that, again, probably doesn't change the picture a ton, but they have a lot of defenders that are 29, 30 years old making a lot of money. So if you got to the point where Dallas Turner became an every down player and an every down impact, I think that would make them feel a little more comfortable about the future there. And then I look a little bit too on the offensive line. I think Donovan Jackson has played well, and I think they will have a good piece there, but I want to see how this shakes out with Darisaw. I think figuring out how durable and how reliable is he long term is a question. He's signed, but I think that's something they're going to have to look pretty seriously at. Ryan Kelly has a contract you could move on from if you didn't want to bring him back. I think that'll be more a question of what do you want to spend in that position rather than how he's played, because I think he's made a difference when he's been back in it. But overall, I think the investments they made in that position, they want to see a little more return on those investments than they've gotten. And that may not lead to changes necessarily, but it leads you to say, okay, the decisions we made on the offensive line, where were we wrong if we were wrong, and what do we need to do differently in terms of, people we have in certain spots to make those decisions in the future. So I think a lot of those things on both lines of scrimmage really is worth watching throughout the rest of this year. That was where they invested their money. They thought we will spend and that will fix those problems, and it hasn't necessarily done that. So I think there's still a lot to be learned and a lot to be figured out in those spots.
Will you, or have you ever, on a trip to Dallas to cover the Vikings or do anything else, attended the Kennedy Museum on the site of the November 22, 1963 assassination of the President of the United States?
Yes, actually, I did this, I want to say maybe when my 5 minutes on the Wild beat, I think I went down to cover a Wild Stars game, and I went up to the book depository to see it. Yeah, it definitely was on, I think on the Wild beat, because I remember talking to some people that did it that day. So, yeah, a fascinating exhibit, and you're struck by how close that window is to the road. I mean, it's just like, wow, that is not the toughest shot in the world to make.
No.
And I think you've had folks talk about this over the years on the show. Probably the guys that you have on pretty regularly have said that this is not a shot that would have required a sniper to hit it. But yeah, it is striking how relatively close you are to where the president would go by, and to think of the idea that a president in the 20th century even would have had top down on a convertible.
Yeah.
I mean, you think about security now, it's just incredible to think that would have happened, but obviously that's what changed everything. So,
by the way,
I've been there once. I don't know that I'll get there this weekend.
Right.
But it was a wonderful.
It's worth doing once, and you hit on the key item, and I think it's the biggest misunderstanding about, if you haven't been there, how close it looks. And in fact, not only no roof on the car, but in both the Dallas newspapers, the route, the exact precise motorcade route, start to finish, published and printed as well, which probably might have helped a little bit or hurt, depending on how you want to look at it. I think I've told you this before. I was in Dallas for 5 years. My cubicle spot, I was at a window in a corner, and it literally, if I looked to my right, I literally saw the Texas Book Depository. That was my spot. Yeah. Literally every day. Now, at some point, actually, when it's where you work in that spot, you almost get used to it to the point where you're not constantly thinking about it, but it's very strange looking back on it. That was my view out the window of my cubicle.
That's incredible. I mean, you think about, that's one of the, for your people of your age, I think my parents, that's the where were you when you found out moment. For
that's
me,
it's
not 9/11, but it's one of the most impactful moments in American history, and to be able to look out the window and be like, oh, that's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
That would be a hard thing to ever not find a little bit surreal. I'm sure every day it's like, okay, you see it, but that is one of those things that for that to become normal would be kind of surreal in its own sense, I guess.
Safe travels to Dallas, and we will chat next week. Thank you.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, Dan.
That is the one and the only Ben Goessling, brought to you by Standard Heating and Air Conditioning. We still have one guest left. It's another Friday regular. That will be Lavelle about 1/2 hour from now. Top 5 at 5 is going to be coming up in a minute. I think Guardsy will have a lot on your Minnesota Wild. We'll have an injury update involving your Minnesota Timberwolves, and who knows what else is on the platter that will be served up by the man in charge of the Top 5 at 5. All of that is coming up next.